because this is probably going to help you. Like there, when he was crashing my server without me knowing if he's not in my lobby or not, I had performance display on, which is like an option in the game where it displays your like FPS, your packet loss, your ping, and stuff like that. But it also, I don't know if it displays a server ID or something like it displays something that's related to the server. And as soon as I like turned it off, he was not able to do that anymore. Because I guess he didn't obtain information off that performance display to like crash the server, or unless EA or something they like patch something right in the back end while that was going on and stopped it, because it stopped happening after I turned it off.
So the server is, I know that, look, this chat's not getting all excited about it. He's getting a server ID through your client that way, if it's actually displaying that server ID, which is allowing him to target the actual server. There's likely going to be a command somewhere that is a packet that is being sent up to the server that's allowing him to do these modifications. With that in mind, when he jumps into the game, his client gives him the server ID. So he's targeting your server instance based on that ID that's inside of your menu, the one that you disabled. That makes absolute sense. That's 100% it. So for him to be able to do things, he has to pull some information, either from a streamer that is displaying that information for the particular lobby that they're in, or with his own character that is in that lobby as well.
Yeah, exactly.
That makes sense. Yeah, this lends more and more to him not having direct access to the server. It seems incredibly unlikely that he has direct access to the server now. It seems way more likely that it's a client that is telling the server what to do, because he needs that information. There's a little bit of fog of war where he has to do a little bit of footwork to find the target correctly.
Yeah.
Obfuscating server ID, would that help? I would want to know if they can figure out what command is being sent, where it is including that, they can kill this. If that is the only way of getting through for it. It is, you'll find very often that many issues like this start with a single seed vulnerability, like one thing that is wrong, right? Mm-hmm. And they just find newer and weirder ways to use that vulnerability to gain extra powers, slowly gaining a foothold with this. So with him having that one thing, we have a common goal here, which is get the server ID before I can do exploits. And if he can get the server ID and then do exploitation after that, that's a really interesting failure in terms of what happens if you obfuscate that from the client. What happens if you stop showing that to the player? What happens if the client is unable to pull the server ID because it's stored fully server-side? If they do that, and that dude's entire cheat suite is based on him getting the server ID, he loses. It's always about finding a novel way of shutting down the attacker. But that seems like a good route. That seems like a possible route.
But don't you agree though that the whole scenario that happened during the tournament is way different than like what he does during ranked?
I agree. Yes, I super agree. That being said, I am worried about in regards to not RCE yet, because RCE is a very serious thing, and for him to get RCE on your client, he would need to get RCE to the server, execute code on the server to pass down to get another RCE vulnerability on your client. Chain vulnerabilities like that do exist. They're insanely tricky to pull off. There also is no guarantee that the client and the server are vulnerable in a way that would be allowed, if that makes sense. So that's why I was like, well, Occam's razor on this a little bit. It is more likely that the end user's machine, so yours and the other machine, are compromised directly.
Yeah.
Which is why I was looking at the route. It's like, if we can prove direct compromise on the machine, then that is more likely. It doesn't mean that it's not impossible to get RCE in that way. It just means it's less likely, if that makes sense.
Yeah. It was also, to give you even more context, like during the day of like the tournament, so there was two things that happened, and it was kind of like, it was out of the ordinary, so that's why I'm bringing it up, and I don't know if it means anything.
Sure.
So like the very first thing that happened that was like kind of random, I don't remember exactly when it happened. Like, I'd have to watch my VOD. I don't know if it was before the tournament started or after one of the games. It might have been after the second game, but there was a time where I was just sitting in the lobby waiting for the game to start, like the next game for the tournament, and my screen like went black. But it was like, my whole screen went black, and there was like an Apex loading logo on the bottom right, and then my screen went back to normal, back to like the lobby where I was. And I don't know if that's like where he just like went into my account, entered my account at that time, which is why my screen went black, because that's never happened before. And I don't know if that
maybe with the client, because in the case of what was being displayed in game, your client had to be hooked, injected. It could be the game client reacting to the injection happening right then. Yeah, he was likely in the client from that moment on. If that's not something that you normally see with the game, and that's something that's never happened before, yeah, that could make sense. That could make sense as the moment of intrusion, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And the second thing that happened, I don't know if I was just like tripping, like I was asking Jen Burn if this happened to him, but I remember like when I did get like the aimbot, when I would like ADS or like look at something, like there was times where my screen looked off. I don't know, it looked like as if like my screen was being mirrored in a way, maybe, or like I don't know how to describe it. Like it would have to be like in person to see my screen, but it was like, yeah, maybe it might have been my FOV change. I don't think it was, but it just like my screen like looked different, like as if I was like I knew it was gonna happen, like in my head, like before I shot my gun. I don't know how to describe it, but I don't know if that is normal or not, but definitely my screen has something like changed, like I don't know if it was texture or a mirror effect from like him cloning his PC or something. I have no idea.
Would you say that it's like, you'll have to describe the effect to me a little bit. Yeah, it's a little bit hard to understand. Would you mean that like the resolution changed in some way, or do you think that maybe there was a slight delay on actions?
No, there was no delay. The resolution was still the same. It was just like, I don't know, maybe there was like a little bit distortion of like where I was like aiming at, if that makes any sense, like visually. But
like the aim was like weird.
Yeah,
what you mean?
yeah, like it just looked weird. Like before I even shot, in my head it registered, oh shit, like this looks weird, like something's gonna happen. Like that's what like went through my head. But
No, I mean, it makes sense. Like, when you play a game as much as you guys do at the pro level, man, like anything that feels off with the client, it's going to not make sense to a lot of us because we don't play the game that much. But any minutia that is like 1/10% off that feels wrong, they're like, no, the game's wrong. Something's wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
And it makes sense. You guys spend thousands of hours in that game, tens of thousands of hours.
yeah, I have like almost 11,000 hours. So like as soon as I saw something like off or like just like even 1% of the time, I could tell. So.
Yep. So yeah, that totally makes sense. It's going to be weird because like anybody else is going to be like, what are you talking about?
Yeah,
That doesn't make any sense. But dude, when somebody plays a game this much, when they've played in that game for 11,000 hours, anything off, they're like, no, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Like something is wrong. And people are like, what are you talking about? It looks the same. No, they know because they've spent that long in the game.
Another thing to add, Jen Burns like DM'd me, which is the other guy that like got hacked. He said that he like did like a full root scan and full scan, and he did not find anything on his PC.
So, as much as I want that to clear up the idea that it was a compromised machine, attackers can clean up after themselves.
Yeah.
While the attack was going on, how long was it before you guys turned off your machines?
Well, for me personally, like maybe I don't know. I would have to watch because I stayed on for at least
Hours?
like 2-3 hours maybe.
Yeah. The only way that you would have been able to stop him from cleaning up after himself at that point, it would be plug pull immediately. Just like,
Yeah.
whip, no more connection, no more, you can't do shit. Yeah. Unfortunately, I wish, God, it's like a crime scene, right? It's like a tampered crime scene at that point.
Yeah.
So it's hard to know if he had direct access through the game client, or it's hard to know if he had direct access through a compromise on your guys' machine. Damn. Well, yeah, deleting files after, it's pretty normal. So cleanup kind of stuff is pretty normal in terms of infections like that. You'd be amazed at how often that happens, even inside of corporate environments where like companies get knocked over by nation states pretty commonly, and then they clean up after themselves afterwards. It's generally just seen as training most of the time. So you'll get all these people that enter a network, they just cause a mess, and then like 30 minutes later, with all these alarms going off, they ghost, they disappear. All the logs are gone. It's like they were never there. And it's because their lead showed up and then showed them how to disappear. And it's training. We see it all the time inside of companies. The companies get knocked over constantly. So like, even a basic understanding of how to clean up would be easy to do there, and it'd be really hard to detect afterwards, which sucks.
Yeah.
I don't know what the level of skill of the attacker is, but if he's been doing this for a long enough time, he probably has some skills behind him, which is good, right? So he's got that. He's just using it for shitty reasons.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, like being part of the hacking community for long as I have, right? Most of the people from our community, we just want to solve a puzzle. And some people, especially younger people, don't really care about the implications of that for the people that are in the path, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is a dude just solving a puzzle. He wants to see what he can do with it. He doesn't really care what anyone else feels about it.
Yeah.
It's pretty normal. It's awful. It's sad because someone that's that willing to solve the puzzle, that willing to go and dig into tech like this, would be a force for good inside of the industry. He could find amazing shit. He could fix amazing shit. And instead it goes this route, which sucks, you know.
Yeah.
Does APEC have unique vulnerabilities? Don't know. What we're trying to determine at this point is what is the scope of the vulnerability, right? Is the client vulnerable? If so, how? If the client is vulnerable, we should be able to reproduce it. If the client is not vulnerable, then how did they get in these two players' machines? If Easy Anti-Cheat is vulnerable, why didn't you use this on more machines? What is the scope, right? And anytime you have vulnerabilities like this is the normal investigation process. You talk to everybody involved, you find out every piece of information you can, you put together all that information, and then you put together likely scenarios, and you go, well, let's investigate each of these likely scenarios. Hacking and conflict resolution stuff like this for hacking, for like you're trying to find out, what happened when this goes on, it's a shitload of research, man. And you go down every rabbit hole possible because you need to prove before you make a statement. And there's too many people on the internet making statements before proving. So.
Wait, everyone's a
Remember
programmer
the
or, like, a hacker, so
$600?
things like that.
Well,
That's-
Yeah, I read it on Reddit.
St. Agnes said it was.
That's typical.
I don't even know, but now
But
I'm
anyway,
getting.
yeah,
the
no, this is
collected
really
for it.
useful information actually.
Okay.
So
Should I
I think
just pay it?
for me, the biggest thing that I got out of this,
I'm
man,
not give up.
the server ID thing. That is so important. That is so important, and I'm sure that they know. I'm sure that the security team knows. But for the general community, this makes more sense. If he can use if he can find out the server ID that you want, and he can only execute attacks if he knows your server ID, then that makes more sense that it's just a modified client and the server listening to it.
Well,
It
there's
is
been-
much less likely that he has access
Like
to the server.
CVS, bro.
The other thing is that like a
The
while ago,
worst
like, this is
version of
before
CVS.
Destroyer 2009's like existence, like was a thing. There was like a long time ago in Apex where people like lobbies would get DDoS. Like this is what we called it. Like not the server just straight up crashing, but basically the lobbies would be so overloaded to the point where the server would cause a crash, but it would take a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And we would do all of these things where it turn off our display, and stuff like that, and it still would happen. So I don't know if that like means anything or DDoSing and like
So-
crashing the server is two different things. But
So DDoSing is a completely different thing. The way the denial service works is you're connected to the game server. Game server is just like any other computer. It has an IP address, right? And you know what that IP address is, or the range of IP addresses that are available for certain types of servers in the instances. Hitting that with a whole bunch of traffic that looks like normal people is going to blow up the server.
Yeah.
In denial of service, the defender always loses. And that's a shitty thing to think about. But unless the defender has more hardware in place, they lose. And it's because the attacker can be faster. They can be leaner. When you are sending an attack, you're just saying, hey, I want to connect to your server. And the server has to take that down and go, are you allowed to connect to my server? Are you from an IP that I have blocked? Is this an okay connection to do? it has to make so many more choices on the defense side that the attacker always wins because the attacker can use less processing power to destroy the defender, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's just that you always lose with DDoS. The only thing you do is just have bigger infrastructure. So when we deal with things like Cloudflare, they just have massive infrastructure and be like, we're going to put this huge infrastructure in the way. And even Cloudflare's fallen over before. Half the internet went down with them when it happened. It was wild. So like, you'll see some wild stuff like that in terms of denial of service. But yeah, with denial of service, they just need to know the address of the server, which is trivial when your game plan is connecting to the servers, right? Same thing happens for World of Warcraft, same thing happens for that. And
The last thing they
back
said
in the day,
that
if
it
you
looks
remember
like
Blizzard Squad,
the
right?
insurance
Remember
will
that?
pay for
They
it
brought down
all.
Rise server all the time? That was using low orbit ion
That's
cannon,
what
which is like, actually in that case, I think they were actually using Lizard Stressor. That's what. So they were supposed to be using Lizard Stressor, which was like low orbit ion cannon, which is a DDoS service where you can actually get a whole bunch of bots that just go and try and DDoS one target. And the idea of this is for those servers in public. So you just, that was it. You just pointed at this. It's like having a gun. You just pointed at it. All these devices try to go connect to the server and it blows up. Normal stuff. So yeah, that's a totally different attack and much easier to pull off. What he's doing is a little bit more sophisticated, but requires this critical piece of information, the server ID. That makes this more interesting, and it gets us closer to understanding what causes the vulnerability and closer to understanding what could be done to stop it, right? And I'm sure if the security team didn't already know this, which they could, this is going to be helpful for them to know, and it's helpful for the community because it gives them context, makes them feel a little bit more comfortable.
Yeah, for sure.
I hope you don't feel super bad. I know it's probably really stressful.
Well, it's just been like a pain to like try to stream because I haven't had my account, but I figured it out now. But other than that, like I'm not. In my eyes, like you said earlier, I feel like this guy is, what he knows what he's doing to a degree.
Oh, yeah.
It's more sophisticated than the usual hacks. So I feel like people are like blowing it up. They can hack into your keylog you, etc. And I'm just like, if he wanted to do that, he would have done it by now, right? So like I'm still taking precautions and stuff like that, but I don't think I really feel like his message is just to exploit how bad Apex's security, or I guess anti-cheat is, and he just wants to exploit that as much as possible.
Yeah, there are some people that gain like kind of positive feelings out of that. They choose to target and run with it, right? His whole thing right now is he wants to focus on Apex.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, whatever internal reason mechanism is for that. For me, it's easy to get in it's easy to kind of get ahead of yourself and be like, I'm gonna get inside this guy's head to determine why. It's not really about why. It's about what, right? So like when you find out what the dude is doing, like how he's doing this, the big how, you don't have to convince him to change because that's a choice he's making. It's a choice he doesn't care about the morality of it. He doesn't give a shit. He just wants to solve the puzzle. It's a drive. I feel the same thing when I'm doing that kind of stuff, but I do it in scope when I'm hired to do it, right? I love solving the puzzle when I'm hired to solve the puzzle. It's like being a bloodhound, right? You go after
It gives you like a sense of power solving it.
It feels awesome. And you're like, I solved the puzzle. It feels good. And you're like, cool, you were paid to do it. But this guy's solving the puzzle in a way that's detrimental to others, and it's clear he doesn't care. So like, I get it. The thing that's kind of rough about this one is the way that he's doing it is he's gone from kind of just cheating in games to getting more and more of this, and now he's trying to cause as much public damage as possible, but there's no rhyme or reason as to why. Normally an attacker would release his methods at some point, right? Be like, this is how I'm doing this, go fix this. It's not doing it. Let's keep it private. So they have to do an investigation to figure it out, and that's rough. And for those out there who think like, Respawn's doing a shitty job, or like Apex is bad, or the security team is awful, whatever the hell it is, right? You have to understand that they can't communicate any of this stuff. They can't. Because if they communicate these types of things, there's a couple of things that happen. They open themselves up to legal liability, to financial liability, depending on what's going on. And then on top of it, they tip their hand to the attacker. All of that stuff is bad. You don't want to do that. It's fog of war, right?
Yeah.
With that in mind, they can't talk about this stuff. More often than not, they can't say shit. So the best thing you can do, cheer those devs on. You may feel like they're not doing enough, but they can't tell you everything that they're doing. So if you can cheer them on and say, hey, this sucks. What can I do to help? What kind of information can we give you? How can we report this stuff? The more that you can be their echelon, their giant system of radars and information, the better they can fix this stuff.
Yeah.
That's all you can do at this point.
Right.
Chat is full of spiders. Goddamn.
What's going on with this? It's like, oh, it looks like it's fixed.
Chat why? Oh, they're all spiders now. The Apex situation is scary. It's only scary because we don't know, right? And for me, I'm excited about it because I'm like, I don't know how he did this. And the moment you said server ready, I'm so excited because it's like we're getting a little bit closer to figuring this out. And I think the community is going to feel a lot better overall the more information that we can find out and determine for the methods. And my hope is that at the end of this trail, we find what's called a proof of concept, which is this is how the vulnerability is done, this is how the company fixed it, and this is how it's not going to happen again in the future. Full disclosure on that kind of stuff would be great. I don't know if they'll ever do that. I don't know if we'll ever get that, but that would be like, yeah. One moment. What is this?
Oh, people are. I don't know if you're busy, but someone actually brought up a good point. So majority of the competitors, they're all like forced, if you're streaming, to stream on a 10-minute delay, right? And it's actually perfect timing. It actually makes a lot of sense too. Coincidentally, I don't know, I haven't checked the timestamp of server ID and 10-minute delay, but what if there might be a coincidence of him injecting these hacks once the 10-minute delay catches up?
Wait, say that again?
So I just explained that like pretty bad, but basically like he can only see the server ID as soon as we're in the game, right? Like
yes.
The performance display. But the thing is that everyone that is streaming has 10-minute delay on. So
yes.
when it actually happened on stream, was when he finally got the server ID, 10 minutes into the game, which would make sense on he actually needs the server ID or the performance display to inject these hacks. Because
That's exactly what it is.
both times when it happened to me and Jen Burton, it was like I don't know the timestamp, like I said. Okay. It might have been like 10 minutes later into the game. I'm not sure, but it might have been before 10 minutes later or 10 minutes before. I'm not sure, but I would have to look at the timestamp. But it might have. Let me see. Yeah, they were saying Jen was on round 4, mine was round 2. So when it happened to me, it was earlier into the game. So maybe it was because I don't know if that was because it was different. It was the same code, but yeah, that might not be like the right theory. But because the first time it happened, it was later into the game. So maybe it caught up the delay and then it happened. But for me, it happened earlier, so it might not be true.
I mean, I think that's really interesting because if the timing lines up, and again, server ID seems the most likely. Server ID absolutely seems the most likely for this. It looks like also, I was sent an image just now. So this happened on Hal's screen after you made him install Malwarebytes 30 to 120 minutes after the incident. Where when you ran Malwarebytes, did it say, because there showed me an image, I want to confirm this. Did it say that there was an inbound connection with an IP address?
Yeah, someone showed me that. Yeah, I didn't see that when I was like streaming or doing that. Like I never saw that. But people were just telling me that like, hey, your IP got leaked, blah 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 blah. I never saw it, so I didn't watch on VOD and see if that actually happened. But
so they've got a screenshot here for me, and I'm not going to show it on stream, obviously, because I don't know if it's your IP address. It looks like it's actually the attacker's jump box.
Yeah, it might be.
It is. I wouldn't show that anywhere. But is that not your IP at the end of that URL there?
Let me see. How would I check that?
I would go to Google and say, "What's my IP?"
All right. So, listen, I'm a noob. You're the professional here.
Yeah.
That is not mine.
Okay, I'm not surprised. So the reason why this is interesting is that IP address, if you run it through VirusTotal, is actually showing that it's running as malicious. There's a shitload of malicious hits on that. And that screenshot shows that there was an inbound connection to your computer from that IP address over port 135 on your stream. There's a screenshot for it.
Yeah.
I think this dude had direct access to your machine. I don't think it's RCE. With this evidence right here, I think there was direct access to your machine.
Yeah, on the link you posted, do I have to click on it or is it just a number at the end of the link?
You can just click on it. Yeah, you can click on it to pull this up to see exactly what it is. Yep. So I'm going to pull this up now because we can confirm that this is the case, right?
Hold on, give me 1 second.
Sure. Can we get a screenshot of this directly from the VOD instead of a cropped one, if you have that? Not you, the person who sent it to me. It's Furkan. Furkan sent me this.
No, this is definitely not mine.
Yeah, Furkan, can you send me that from with the full screen so we can have it in full context? Thank you. Yeah.
Digital Ocean.
So that's Windows RPC. This is all starting to line, dude. This looks like direct access to the machine.
Well, how would you gain access directly to the machine?
Trojan would be the way. Whether through the client or through a download that you did, we don't know.
You think that he could have done it through the packs that he gifted us?
Yeah, it's up to you.
That I don't know.
It's all port.
That would be another different method, right? So we've got an unknown here. How did you get it on your machine?
Yeah. So how was there a chance that his IP somehow just showed up on my screen?
So what that is Malwarebytes detected that there was an inbound connection from another IP address, from a server. This guy it's not his actual IP. It's likely what is called a jump box, which is if you look on, can you see my stream right now?
Let me pull it up.
Sure.
Yep, I see it.
So if this is your machine, we would expect the attacker's machine to directly interface with you, but that's not how this works. They generally have what's called a jump box in between, which is either another machine that has been compromised or a machine that they are renting in some way, usually using cryptocurrency in some way like that. Then the attacker has their machine out here. The attacker then connects to the jump box in some way, usually over a public line so that they don't trace it back to their home address or their home ISP. If they're not a dumbass, if they are a dumbass, then they use their home ISP and it becomes trivial to catch them once you start digging enough. Once the bloodhound is on your case, it just, it starts to unravel. So that jump box that we can go and look at that is actually a DigitalOcean ASN. Let's go see who owns that machine. Because that machine is connecting to your machine over port 135, and we have the IP address for that. Port 135 is Windows RPC, and it looks like it's been flagged by a number of security vendors. I'd like to know what that IP address is and who owns that. That's the big question right now. Who owns this? Let's go see. This is the kind of stuff that I do when we're doing like any type of investigation, by the way. Mm-hmm. It's my assumption it's a jump box. We gotta find out.
I'll have to crack the case on stream.
Yeah, it's fun. I love doing this stuff, man. Writing and peering policy can be found at... What is this? What is this weird service? Some weird stuff in here. Yeah, so this is the kind of stuff that I love looking up because you're like, who is this? What is this? IP2 location. It looks like it's actually in the United States. Provider is TunnelBear. Domain is digitalocean.com. Server for rent. Yeah, server for rent. 100%. Normal stuff. So likely this is a rented server from a dude that's using this for attacks. There's your attacker. There's his jump box. We have his jump box. So what they could do at this point is, now that we know the IP address that connected to your machine, they can now take that, go to DigitalOcean and say, hey, we have a box that connected to this player's machine at the time of this event is a known attack one that shows up on VirusTotal. Who's paying for that box? You got your command. That's an option now. That wasn't an option at the beginning of this call, and now that's an option.
Yeah.
That's how that stuff happens. Really, really fast. Yep. Because somebody has to pay for the box, unless it's a compromised box, which it could be. Then you got to start over. You got to keep looking, right? So these are the types of things that you look for. Is you're like, oh, there's a loose thread here. Let's pull it until we unravel this sweater. This is a piece of a thread. Keep it in the, basically you keep it in the back of the Batman belt and you're like, I've got this. Let's see where that goes. I think this is really interesting though. The fact that this actually showed up in your stream. Where is this? Firkin, were you able to get that full image? We'll take to find the VOD. I'll message in a bit. Okay, perfect. So I'm going to show you guys what this image was, just so you can get an understanding, because it's on the VOD. This is public information now.
Yeah.
But this is what showed up on your screen. And it said port 135, which is Windows RPC, IP address, which is going to be 107.170.2365, inbound, which means it's a connection to your machine from a known attack machine, specifically on there.
Yeah.
And that known attack machine is a rented machine on DigitalOcean. Like, that's basic smoking gun shit for me. I'd be like, oh, okay, so that's the attacker's machine. Because why else would you have an inbound connection there that Malwarebytes is keying on, right?
Yeah.
Yep. And that's not your IP, so.
But isn't this just like a temporary solution to like the issue? Or I guess like banning the guy
Well,
through this?
it's not a temporary solution when you arrest the dude, right?
Well, I guess, yeah.
So you arrest the dude, you find out the methods. You find out the methods or arrest the dude. Either, or both, frankly, right? There's always a way to go once you find out. You want to find out who's doing this. And this is an option. Unfortunately, it looks like he made a bit of a mistake. And because he made a bit of a mistake, you got a piece of information that could lead to finding out who he is and what he's doing. And that's very useful for the people on the defense side. Every time the attacker makes a misstep, every time they screw up like that, a little piece of that thread falls out of that sweater until you know exactly who they are. It is always about the enemy making too many mistakes, every time. So, I'm interested in that. Wait and see. Wait and see where that goes.
That's interesting.
Waiting to see that full image so we can have the full context.
I'm surprised that, I think Jen Byrne might have like fully wiped his PC, which is maybe why it didn't pop up on his screen. Because I don't think it never popped up on his screen ever. And I don't
It could have been
yeah, I don't know.
the moment you ran it, that means the connection was active at the time. The attacker can terminate the connection at any time. You may have just caught it while the connection was still active. You got lucky.
Yeah, that was his mistake.
Yeah, it's his mistake.
Yeah.
All of this stuff, a lot of people don't realize is the attacks between offense and defense in scenarios like this, 100% of those are going to be a clever developer versus a clever developer. And it's basically like a standoff of who's going to screw up first. Because someone's going to make a mistake. But the problem for the attacker side is they basically, in this case, he has to be perfect every time because he's actively attacking and he has to obfuscate who he is.
Yeah.
If he makes any mistake like here, at any time, it could unravel the whole thing. So,
Yeah, for sure.
you track his machine from the drum box? Depends. So like next steps that happen from there, right, is you've got trying to find out who owns the box, trying to find out who pays for the box. Is the box actually compromised? If he is accessing that box remotely, where's he accessing it from? Does that actually lead back to his home? Does that lead back to a country that has extradition rights to the United States? If it has extradition rights to the United States, do you extradite him? Can you? What is the age of the person? Is he under 18? Right? There's so many variables that spin out of that. But really what it comes down to is who owns that box? Why is that box connecting to this dude's machine? That's a lot of questions, right? So there had to be some way for him to direct what was going on in your machine. This was likely the way that he directed what was going on in your machine. Not through the game client, through this connection over port 135 from a known attack server. That is infinitely more likely. Because you have to puppeteer the machine. It's not just going to do it on its own. You puppeteer it from range. And he's puppeteering probably over that connection, if that makes sense.
So this clarifies more so that Apex is not like in danger. Just more so like he just got access to my PC.
I don't see evidence of Apex having RCE. It does not mean that it's impossible, but I still don't see evidence, while I do see evidence of him having direct access to your machine, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
So it is still technically possible that Apex has RCE. I don't see evidence of it. I do see evidence of this. This is now provable with this.
Yeah.
What about the PAX? The PAX shows that he had access to telling the server to do things it shouldn't. That doesn't necessarily mean remote code execution. Servers do dumb shit all the time. Like some of the stuff that I worked on in the past was attackers were able to change the price of certain games to 1 cent because the payment flow was not protected correctly. That doesn't mean that they have access to the RCE on the server. It just means that the payment flow isn't checking itself correctly. There's vulnerabilities all over the place. Weird ones, right? Dumb, but you have to figure out what the actual scope of the attacker's access really is. And if you assume and you just say, oh, this is what it is, then everybody loses. We have to prove it. It always has to be proven. Everything is very rigorous when you are doing this. You have to be very rigorous about how you are approaching these things. And you only mark things out and add things to the table based on what is provable information.
Jen Byrne just stated in my chat that he did a full reinstall of Windows before the tournament started.
Full reinstall of Windows before the tournament started.
Yeah.
You could still have persistence on the machine, but that is more interesting. So how did the infection take place? Yeah, still leaves the window open for something being wrong with Apex. If he did full reinstall of Windows, there's ways to keep persistence through Windows installs. They're a lot more advanced. You could do it. If this guy's savvy enough, he could be doing that. There are, hardware level exploitation. There's ways of keeping persistence through that. There are ways of doing it. That being said, likelihood decreases slightly. Yeah. I mean, we still don't have RCA off the table for Apex. We won't until we prove the actual full way of doing this. So yeah, makes sense. In your case, we see that he had direct access to your machine. Now, the interesting part is we don't know where that access started. We don't know how the access started. So that does still leave open the possibility of something being wrong with Apex, though no proof. Still no proof. We have to wait. Yeah. We need more info, and we could get that. It just takes time. This is why when you see developers like, oh man, the developers aren't doing anything, they're doing this. You have to wait for the attacker to keep screwing up. You just keep picking at the thread. You keep pulling at the sweater. Little pieces here and there. You keep building it up into this big thing, and then you're like, now we got him, right? That's why it takes a long time. It always does. Look, Grove's playing Grey Hack IRL. I mean, yeah,